What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Had a fun weekend. Overall, did the Spawncast, did a full review over the last week, and then we took apart both NES Classic releases. See, we had, of course, the original one, and then the newer one that came out, just to look at some of the differences. If you missed the videos there, I'll have them up in the card for you. I would definitely check out the NES comparison. That was actually a lot of fun to do, and see what differences were there, and there was a few there, and it kind of tells us where Nintendo is with their manufacturing right now with the NES and even the Super Nintendo Classic. We do have some stuff to get into today. Warframe did get announced, and it looks like it is Panic Button's next port to the Nintendo Switch. We're going to go over that in some detail, especially if you're not really sure what Warframe is or where it's come from, or really what kind of picture that paints for Panic Button, because it's actually a little more interesting than just the initial, I guess, announcement and kind of some of the surface level stuff. We got to really get into that, and we will. And then there was a really big Steam leak that tells us pretty much everything. Sales, player counts, all that good stuff. And we're going to go over that too, because it was a pretty serious database dump that happened, and there's a few things there I want to check out. First, though, let's start with some of the quick news. Today, you will see Monster Hunter World specs released, and then probably the release date as well, all for the PC version. Remember, the Xbox One and the PS4 version released at the beginning of this year, with promise that the PC version would release basically towards the end of the year. It'd seriously be like an entire year almost, probably 10 months or so afterwards. Now, I am thinking it's going to come out maybe a little sooner. I don't know if it can come out in September. I guess it kind of can, because it's a PC release, but I would like to see August. Personally, August would be really cool. Anyway, we did get a minor leak of the supposed PC specs, specifically the minimum and then the recommended. You're going to see those here, and it's not as serious as you would have thought, I guess, for what it is. I mean, seriously, it's the minimum specification for the video card, for example, is a GTX 760, which is a pretty old card now. So if you have like a 960 or a 1050, believe it or not, you actually come in above the minimum PC requirements for this thing. That's actually great. i5, basically it's asking for a quad-core 8 GB RAM, 25 GB of free space, which is very manageable nowadays. Of course, the recommended ones are well above that, 1060 and then an i7, but that's not technically what you actually need. We also had a date for the Castlevania animated series on Netflix. That the first season was a pretty big hit. A lot of people really liked it, and the next season did get dated. They originally said summer. It looks like it's going to fall a bit out of summer. This was actually on Twitter from Warren Ellis, who said that Castlevania Season 2, 8 episodes by the way, will be starting October 26th, only on Netflix. So that is the same day as Red Dead Redemption once again, of course. Or no, I shouldn't say that. That's the day of My Hero Academia One's Justice. Everyone has to get out of the way now. Red Dead Redemption is, of course, out that same day, so it's interesting all these things dropping on there. But, of course, the Netflix series are much different. They drop them on there, and you can watch them all at once, and you probably already subscribed to Netflix anyway in anticipation of it from the first season, which first season was pretty awesome. You have time to catch up now if you want to. I would check out the first season, get ready for that second season. And then also we had, of course, Todd Howard, who is one of the most honest people I've seen in quite a while in the gaming industry, explain why they keep releasing Skyrim. If you haven't seen this, everyone complains about Skyrim constantly being re-released over and over and over again. I mean, they even did the joke where they put it on Alexa, and it actually works fairly well. You can actually download it and play it, believe it or not, through Skyrim. Well, this was at Game Lab, the big developers convention that we talked about before. He was talking with Jeff Keighley, and he basically said, if you don't want Skyrim anymore, stop buying it. Since everyone keeps buying it whenever we release it, of course we're going to release it, and honestly, I can't fault them for that. If people keep buying it in droves, I would keep releasing it too, because you're just making money from it, no sweat. So there you go. If you don't want it, I guess stop buying it if you don't want it to keep being released. But at least they showed us that Elder Scrolls 6 is coming, so we at least know it's not technically holding off the Elder Scrolls 6 release. All right, now with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into some of the big stuff, starting with, of course, Warframe. Warframe was announced for the Nintendo Switch. This was on Saturday at their convention, the Tenacon that they do. And that was on Saturday. They had a full live stream on Twitch, and they then announced the Nintendo Switch port. And what was really surprising, or I should say caught a lot of people's eyes, was that Panic Button was there. Their logo was there. They've been talking about a new port that they're working on for the Switch. A lot of people were thinking it was a Western game. Technically, this is a Western game, as the developing company is based out of Canada, but a lot of us were thinking a Bethesda game. At least this one is not a Bethesda game. That doesn't mean that they're not working on other stuff. I'm sure they're working on other stuff. But Warframe is an interesting one because it is a free-to-play MMO, essentially. It's an online free-to-play game. It's an action RPG, And it's interesting in it's going to be a game that is going to be pretty much starting over with the Switch. What I mean by that is there's no cross progression, there is no crossplay. None of the versions have that. So when the Switch version starts, we don't know when it's starting by the way, but when it starts, you won't be contending with people who have been playing for years. This game has been out since 2013, and on the Switch, it's going to have pretty much a fresh start. So if you're curious about it, but you're worried that there will be people who are way ahead of you right away, well, they're going to jump out ahead of you anyway because they're probably experienced with the game on other platforms that they're playing on the Switch and they got really excited about it. But the world will start pretty much brand new. So it's worth jumping into if you've been curious about it. But again, it has been out since 2013 on the PC. It released there, and then they had this they did this big shakeup over the game, changed it a lot over time, and it's a lot better now than it was then. I played it in 2013 on the PC, didn't like it that much. I think Evan stuck with it a lot more than me. And then I checked it back out again when it came out on the Xbox, which was a couple years later. Like, I think the next year it went to PS4, then it went to Xbox, and then they continued to kind of revise it. See, the console versions pretty much get hotfixes and updates after the PC version. That's the reason why there's no cross progression or cross play, because they tend to all be on different versions most times. Now, there's a lot of questions around this game, specifically how will it run on the Switch, right? That's one of the big questions on a lot of these things. Is the resolution going to be solid? Because there's going to be some text to read, a lot of text. They, of course, can make the text, the native resolution of the screen while the assets and stuff change. We've seen that before. Xenoblade does that exact thing. The text will stay at 720p or 1080p while everything else will shift and move as it needs to. So the performance is going to be big. Of course, will there be any performance when it comes to network? That's a big thing. And really, how is it going to work when we are portable and it's in handheld mode? Because that's where the Switch is the weakest. Will it still function well enough? Now, the big company behind Warframe is Digital Extremes. They're based out of Canada. Panic Button appears to just be porting it for them, and then they will probably pick up for updates and everything after that. The game itself is running on a custom engine of theirs called the Evolution engine, and this debuted with Dark Sector back in 2008. If you remember that, I remember playing that on the 360. It was also on PS3, and then it was also used for the Darkness 2 in 2012. I also like that this shows that Panic Button is not concerned about porting an online-only game. Specifically, Warframe is like basically essentially an MMO. It's a massive multiplayer online RPG, but it's more of an action RPG. This shows that Panic Button doesn't necessarily need to focus on single-player games like Doom and Wolfenstein. Sure, Doom does have a multiplayer aspect to it, but it's not focused all on that, whereas Warframe, you have to always be online pretty much, and it's one big massive multiplayer game where you have a lot of cooperative play. There is PvP, but it's not taken as seriously as the PvE or player versus enemy with co-op. Evan reminded me that it is 8 now, I believe, for raids, because back when I played, there weren't raids or anything. It's 4 people if you want to do just co-op in like a room and you guys go and play through like instances and stuff. But if you want to do full raids, there are 8 people. This is a game where you want to jump in with a bunch of people. You can play it single player, but it's definitely a game you want to get some friends together and run through. The other question is voice chat. Are we going to have voice chat natively on the Switch with Warframe? Remember, we heard that back in April, Nintendo did add this into their SDK and everything. So a lot of us were figuring, okay, Fortnite used it. Is this the case where Panic Button can finally use it in something like a Warframe? We're going to find out more about that going forward as well. We do know at this point, there's no cross progression. There's no cross play at all. Okay, so the Switch is going to be basically by itself on an island like all the other versions, and it's going to be free to play with premium currency. So that's kind of where we are now. There is a listing on the eShop, but no release date at this time. And the free-to-play market continues to grow on the Switch. Fortnite, massively successful, 2 million downloads in the first 24 hours. So we're gonna see what happens with this one. I'm very, very curious about Warframe on the Nintendo Switch and see if it does, I guess, boost performance on the Switch in terms of their free-to-play market. And if a lot of downloads will happen. I feel like there are people on the Switch who have not played this game before. It has been it's been available on pretty much everything. But I am curious if more people who have never tried it before will jump in and see what they think of the game. Next up, let's talk about Darksiders 3. Do you remember this game? It was completely absent from E3. I figure it'll probably be at Gamescom. If I had to take a guess, THQ Nordic will probably show up there with it. And what's funny is the Microsoft Store is on a roll. Do you remember they leaked the Shenmue 1 and 2 release dates, and then, like, seriously, a day later, Sega was like, yeah, it's coming out those days. Well, they decided to supposedly leak the release date for Darksiders 3 because they just cannot help themselves, you know? It's coming out November 27th, according to the Microsoft Store. They put up a big slide and everything for it, big advertisement, then they pulled it down. And I assume at this point, maybe THQ Nordic just tells us the release date ahead of Gamescom, or maybe they just hold off until then. But I think that's where they're going to have a big blowout, especially if it's coming this year. It has to at least be soon to get us ready for that November release. And hey, nothing's really coming out in November, so yeah, why not? Put it out in November. At this point, everything's coming out in either September or October, and then even Kingdom Hearts fell to next year, so yeah, November keeps opening up. Sure, Pokemon is there, but that's kind of in like the top half of the month. I think this kind of a game can seriously release like a week before Smash or a week and a half before Smash and pretty much get away with it, especially since it's going to be right in there with kind of the holiday Black Friday buying time. And I'm looking forward to it. I liked 1. 2 was okay. I'm very interested in 3, though. Next up, let's talk about Dead Cells on the Nintendo Switch. This is a game, of course, that was announced. It's coming to the PS4 and everything physically, which is really cool, and it's coming to the Switch physically as well. And they have something called a Signature Edition. This is going to be specifically for collectors because there's only going to be 2,000 for each system made, and it looks awesome. You're actually going to see a picture of it here. By the way, this also gives us an idea of when it's coming out, Dead Cells in general, because this version is actually releasing in Europe on August 17th, and it's releasing in the US on August 21st. And again, 2,000 copies of this. So if you want it, you're going to have to make sure you get there at the right time and pick it up. I'm sure it'll go on pre-order and everything. But included in it, as you see the picture here, a region-free copy of the Dead Cells game on Nintendo Switch, a double CD Digipack soundtrack, exclusive enamel character pin, a 56-page hardback art book, a numbered certificate of authenticity, which is pretty cool, and an embossed outer box featuring exclusive artwork. It looks great. Dead Cells is an awesome game to begin with. It's a really cool, like, roguelike indie game that gets pretty difficult, but honestly, when it first came out, I played it. I actually did a full video here on the channel, and I liked it, and they've changed it extensively since then. They continue to update it constantly with feedback, and at this point, it is a solid game. So even if you're not picking up the Signature Edition or it physically or anything, it's worth checking out on either the Switch or the PS4 or anything, just because it's a really good indie game. I even tweeted them a while ago. I said, you know what, this game, playing it, because the visual style of it seemed to suit the Switch, I said, hey, this would work really well on the Switch. I even played it on my GPD Win, and it played fine there. And I was like, man, this makes sense. I tweeted them, and they said, yeah, you know, stay tuned for that. So there you go. They're making it happen. It appears to be coming out in August. If this version is releasing midway through August, I would expect the digital version to be either that same time or maybe a little before, but look forward to the Signature Edition definitely for Dead Cells. And our last bit of news, let's talk about a massive Steam leak that pretty much has told us everything about sales and player counts and everything. Remember how we had Steam Spy? They gave us the best guesstimates that they could. These appear to be exact numbers as of July 1st. You might be wondering what happened. There seemed to be a hole in Steam's API and the security and everything, and people managed to grab an entire snapshot of everything as of July 1st, and they dropped everything into a big spreadsheet. I will link you to a couple of sites. I think Ars Technica even was linking to it. It's a file you can download, and you can literally search through all the games that they have filed on Steam. These are games with achievements, though. Here is just a little snapshot of the top few games, and you can see right at the top is actually Team Fortress 2. That, of course, is a free game, so it makes sense why it has so many. It's been around for what feels like a while. It runs on several computer configurations, from being very weak and up. Over 50 million people have downloaded Team Fortress 2. Also, keep in mind, look at number 5, Left 4 Dead 2, to over 23 million. Where is Left 4 Dead 3? Seriously, that's a big question. There's Warframe, we just talked about that, over 16 million there. Counter-Strike Source at 15 million. Paladins was a little surprising. Again, though, that one's also free to play. And then we just talked about Skyrim. I mean, Todd Howard himself said, if you don't want any more, stop buying it. But look, over 13 million people have bought it on Steam. It's just fascinating to go through these and just take a look at some of the different sales and player counts and everything. Like I said, if it's free to play, these count the downloads. Essentially, that's what these count, are downloads. So if a game costs money, that tells you obviously how many people have bought said game. Left 4 Dead 2 though, come on Valve. Left 4 Dead 3, let's get that out there already, right? A lot of people are buying it. Anyway, I would check it out. I also took a look, Wolfenstein 2. this whole list seems to match up because Wolfenstein 2 sold like 550,000 copies. Remember how we talked about how they haven't sold well at all? They were in like the lower half of like the UK sales charts and everything. Yeah, it looks like this is about right. It's kind of a shame to see it sell so few, even on Steam. But hey, we'll see what the Switch sales give us, right? Maybe they really do find success on the little handheld system. We'll find out. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. Really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave a bunch of comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's the Dead Cells Signature Edition. Maybe you're going to pick that up on the PS4 or the Switch, or maybe you're just excited for it to be coming to either system. It's a great game. It's on Steam now, though, if you want to check it out. It's not even that expensive, but it's an awesome game that I would definitely check out. Also, what about Warframe on the Switch? Have you never heard of this game? Or did you play it like me when it first came out back in 2013? Really haven't checked it out much since then. And maybe you'll pop in to see how it plays on the Switch and see what it's all about. I think it's worth a download. Just check it out. It's free to play, right? That's kind of how it's like. It's free to play. Yeah, why not? I'll check it out. Then what about Darksiders 3? I'm in for that. I'm going to be checking that one out. And hopefully it looks really good. I would like to see more gameplay. And then, of course, that release date, if it is the back half of November, I think makes a lot of sense. And I think it's a good little spot for it. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.